Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of our podcast, The Initiation Cycle. And the first episode is going to be about how to build a social kingdom in times of adversity. We are going to cut the video into different parts, depending on how long it's going to be. But we'll cover the whole topics from actually getting in a position to meet people, then how to meet the right people, and how to actually maintain your friend cycle and build it up, how to connect the people in there. And I'd say because it's the first episode of our podcast, we're just going to introduce each other. And yes, I'm going to start introducing my lovely friend Chris. And we met while we were both studying in Groningen. We were both living at the same student house, which itself was very chaotic, and there were parties all over the place. And eventually we also partied at the same time. And you have to know about Chris, if you think about a charismatic person who's always smiling, that's basically him. And the same was true for when I met him at the party. He was also smiling, engaging with other people, and was just like, oh, okay, I'm pretty curious, let's talk to him. And we started to have a conversation from there on. And I'd say it actually clicked at me immediately. And not only because we may have been drinking a little bit of alcohol, but also because of our mindsets. And I quite admired and still admire his passion for his craft, which is art. I think these days in general, it's not that easy to find your passion at a young age. And if you do, it's something very special. And I'm actually kind of jealous about him, but it's pretty damn amazing. That's Chris.
Thanks, Max. That was very flattering. And I remember when we first met Max, I actually met him at a student party at first. That's when I first saw him, not when I actually formally met him. And the reason that he kind of like make an impression on me a little bit was because he was wearing this Hawaiian shirt. He was in a very good spirit, very good vibe. We were all going to this party together. And even though he went in alone, by the end of the party, he left with a bunch of people. And that just really made an impression on me because I was like, damn, this guy must be like very social. He has a very good vibe about him. And that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And as Max mentioned, we used to live in the same student house. So we used to like always kind of be in the same parties and that kind of stuff. And eventually a few days later, we ended up having this very drunken conversation together where I found out that not only is he a very social guy, but he's also very ambitious. And I think that's the thing that kind of connected us. It's the fact that we both have kind of similar ambitions of building our empire. He's interested in business and sales, which also interests me as well. And that's what truly like kind of solidified our friendship, which eventually led to 6 months later, we ended up throwing up this like great party because Max was leaving. He was going to go back to Germany. He was leaving Groningen. And we threw this epic party for him, and it was such a blast to organize. And I think that even solidified our friendship even further because we had to like organize this event together and kind of practice our social skills a lot more. And it was almost like building a business a little bit, like building this event. So definitely ever since then, me and Max have kept in touch, and we're still friends to this day after like 2 years later.
Awesome. I think we are boasting our egos pretty much in the first 5 minutes of the podcast, but I like it. It sets off a good vibe. And the next thing we are going to do is dividing the process of how to build a social circle into 5 different steps. Step 1, which we're starting off, is starting with yourself, being more interested, and how to really change your mindset. And I just go into how to be more interesting, and maybe you can then take over if you got something to add, or just talk a little bit about mindset in that regard. How to be more interesting. I think it's not like you have to be a model or something like that. You have to be a photographer or just some activities which are usually connected to people who are pretty interesting. I think being interesting is foremost. Also being interesting for yourself and also following your inclinations, because that's in the end what keeps you going, because you just have this natural inclination of wanting to know more about a certain subject and naturally feel drawn into it without applying a lot of energy to learn more about it. So I think being more interesting is exploring your passions, exploring your interests, and then also meeting other people with similar interests which you can connect with, for example.
Mm-hmm. And I will also say you need to embrace truly being different and embracing who you are as a person. I think that's very important, because no matter what you do in this world, in this life, people are not going to like you, no matter what you do. Okay, you could be the most polite person ever, and people are going to think that you're too nice. You could be the most badass, kind of like rock star kind of person, and people are going to think that you're an asshole, right? So no matter what you do, there will always be some people that will not accept you for whatever reason. So you might as well just embrace who you are completely and kind of lead with that, lead with who you are, lead with your hobbies, lead with your interests, and go out and find people that vibe with that.
That's very, very much true. And also, if we taking a look then and or transitioning for the step one, figuring yourself out, following your interests, being okay with being different, because especially in this day and age, you can be different. You can do so much stuff which you couldn't do in the past. That's pretty remarkable. And then when we're going over to step number two, dealing with rejection, anxiety, I think a big role of that is also being okay with being different, being all right that not everybody really has to like you, because if everybody likes you, which is not very much possible, then it's not like oh my god, this is my best friend. It's more like, yeah, that's a guy I know. But really being different also makes you connect, in my opinion, with other people a lot more, because you can share these same interests, the same character traits or mindsets in a very authentic way, without being only nice because you have to be nice.
Yeah. And it's just, you almost have to think of it like this. Everyone knows what Starbucks is, but no one walks around being a fan of Starbucks, wearing their T-shirt and asking people to kind of invest in the company. Like, yeah, I'm the biggest Starbucks fan. You're never gonna meet anyone that says he's the biggest Starbucks fan, but you will meet people that are very excited about the small little cafe in their neighborhood because they have the best milkshakes that they ever tasted. You want to be that small local cafe where you are unique, you are your own unique product, you are one of a kind, and therefore you attract people that are actually crazy about you. The more general you are, the more people are gonna like you, but no one is actually gonna love you. No one is actually gonna be like, this person is the shit, because they're gonna be thinking that you're just another Joe on the street, right? So for example, earlier in our introduction, the way that I introduced Max, the way that Max introduced me, we obviously really like each other. We obviously are on the same page, right? But not everyone likes Max, right?
That's true.
Every positive thing that I've said about Max, or for every positive thing that Max has said about me, there's a person out there that will look at us and think, these guys are corny, these guys are weird, these guys are cheesy, whatever, right? But we found our own tribe of people that really like us, and we hang out with those people. So don't try to be everyone's cup of tea. Try to be the cup of tea of the people that you actually want to be around, your tribe.
Hell yeah. And also it's just like being very open to that rejection. Not other people has to like you, also with your actions you're taking. For example, we're doing a podcast, and probably depending on the people you have around you, first of all, you wouldn't find a person who wants to do a podcast with you. And then there would also probably, if you maybe have the wrong kind of people around, be the people who really discourage you, like, no, you don't do that, your English isn't good enough, with Corona you should meet him in person and not do this online podcast kind of thing. But just being open to that, and being also okay with not being perfect, because we never can be, but the process of improving yourself can also be very motivating, and be closer to that person you want to be, in comparison to not taking any actions at all. And I think what also helps with being open to this kind of critique is being aware of what's going on around you and inside of you. And I mean, it's like the 101 self-help tip, but I think for being aware of your surroundings, something which really helps is also meditation, or feeding or finding a place where you really have your calm and can gather your thoughts. For example, walking around in a forest where not that much stuff is going on, and really being aware, okay, what other people around me really saying about me, which kind of vibe are they giving me, and which vibe am I giving myself, and how do I feel if people reject me, for example.
Hmm. And no matter who you are, no matter how aware you are, and no matter how grounded you are, you're still like, rejection hurts. Okay, it hurts everyone, right? No one likes to feel like they don't belong, but you always need to just keep going. You always need to kind of have this vision for where you want to be, where you want to go, and just keep pushing. And that requires that you kind of tap into your inner energy, your inner negative or positive energy, and truly kind of ground yourself in that, right? So what do I mean by negative and positive energy? Negative energy is thinking that, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'll end up in this horrible situation that I don't want to be in. And the fact that you don't want to end up there, you push because you wanna get to a better place. You wanna avoid falling into that pit. It's like, for example, when you haven't studied for an exam and it's the final week, you have an exam like in 6 days, you don't want to fail that class. So within that week, you're going to study more than you probably have your entire life. Where did that motivation come from? It came from that negative energy. It came from the fact that you don't want to fail that class and have to spend the rest of the summer trying to supplicate for it, right? But on the other hand, you also have positive energy, where you're not fueled by where you don't want to be. Instead, you're fueled by the positive outcome of the future, right? So, for example, you might be saving money to go on vacation this summer because you are just excited by the possibility of maybe going to Brazil and experiencing the life there, and that excitement, that the idea of this positive vision, the great time that you're going to have there in the summertime, is enough motivation for you to work hard and save your money so you can experience that.
Hell yeah. I think we work a little bit different in that way, like the positive and negative energy. These days, maybe we're getting a little bit closer to both have that good energy, but I think that, or I know for a fact that early in the process, I've been touching a lot into the bad energy, like how do I feel if I'm not going to do that? If I'm going to home and haven't done a certain thing or haven't studied, something like that. And yeah, I really feel bad. And with this meditation, with this awareness, I also know that about myself, and I feel very pushed to get into actions. And if you constantly remind yourself, like, that was bad, what have you done there, like all these little rejections here and there, and the little things you regret can really build up. And it can also be really constructive to your personality and stuff like that, but it can also really pushes you to get into actions, because at first it might feel like a little bit weird talking to people you've never known and stuff, but it's just a normal thing that it feels a little bit weird, just like driving a bike for the first time, it also probably felt a little bit weird. You have like this little small wheel, so you can't really fall off. That actually very much applies to also meeting people you haven't known before. And I think you, Chris, also work with good energy, like a lot of times, really touching into like, I want to be that person, like really having a good vibe about it. And myself, it's just like, I don't want to be that person. So kind of working a little bit in the other way around. But I think I kind of made that shift also, or I'm in that transition of only tapping into the bad energy to then slowly also tapping into that good energy. Because if you build yourself up over time and you accomplished all the things you wanted to accomplish, there comes a point where there isn't that much bad energy left and you kind of feel okay with yourself. And in order to then keep going, you really have to tap into that good energy, which really pulls you there, because you don't have that push motion anymore.
Mm-hmm. But even though you're gonna be ambitious and you're gonna be tapping into whatever energy you resonate with, be it negative or positive, you will deal with rejection no matter what you do. So it's important that you have the right mindset and the right way to respond to it whenever it does, right? Whenever you experience it. And the first thing that I think it's important that you know about rejection, that it is never actually personal, especially if someone hasn't spent enough time with you and they don't truly know who you are, and they reject you based on like one conversation or the couple of times that they've seen you around, then there's no reason for you to get defensive. There's no reason for you to get mad, because at the end of the day, they don't really know you. It just wasn't meant to be, or whatever sample of your personality that you showed them in that moment just didn't really resonate with them. Now, of course, there is a social, emotional intelligent aspect to socializing and dealing with people. Like, you do need to have a level of social skills to be able to connect, right? But as long as you take the small lessons that you get from every interaction that you have with people and discard the rest of it, then it doesn't really matter, right? Because you don't want to be the guy that's just fully on himself or herself and just goes out and completely berates people and isn't socially aware of how they're coming across, right? So you want to be taking the lessons from the rejections, right? If you're getting rejected by 10, 20 people every day, to everyone that you talk to, no one wants to talk to you, then obviously you need to adjust your approach a little bit. So yeah, definitely do that adjustment, but take the lesson and completely discard the rest. Completely discard any negative mindsets about you not being good enough, or not being able to connect, or being rejected by others. No. We're here to improve. We're here to get better, and we're here to meet the people that we're meant to be with. Just take the lesson and move on.
Yeah, too. I think it's very important that it also doesn't come across that you just be yourself. If you're an asshole, you just be an asshole, and if other people don't like you, it's their fault. I think you do have to be aware if it's really you yourself in that moment who's socially not aware or not socially as developed to connect to other people. You should obviously try to be different, but then also have the awareness if there's something lacking inside of you, like the social skills to connect to other people, to not get mad of these other people who just who maybe reject you and something like that. And also, obviously, it's a little bit of a time saver, because if you talk to other people, people you never met before, and they say, no, like, let's not exchange numbers. I think the vibe isn't right. It saves you time, because at that moment, that was clearly the right decision for the other person, because when he met you, he didn't get the right vibe because of social skills, or maybe you weren't really connecting, had the wrong mindset or a different mindset. Let's put it that way. And it saves you a little bit of time that you really can connect to the people you should connect with in this specific moment of time. Obviously, you develop, the other person develops, and maybe like 2 years later, you find each other again at a bar or something like that, and then really it clicked because this other person, you yourself, had a pretty big mind shift change or change the interest, and then you're connecting very well. But if people reject you, it's because it isn't working out for the both of you in that moment of time.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's get into how you actually talk to people. Okay, like the main event. How do you actually go up, make friends, connect with new people, and start building your circle, your tribe, your kingdom? Okay, so number one is you need to build social momentum. All right, let me be the first to tell you right now that if all you do all day is you wake up, play Minecraft, and go to bed, you cannot expect that you're going to go outside and you're going to start being a social butterfly, talking to people and people want to be your friend. Not because there's anything wrong with playing Minecraft. I love Minecraft. I play too from time to time. But it's because you just don't have the social momentum. All right. You're not going to just go up to the gym one day and start lifting like 20 kilo dumbbells and start doing bicep curls, right? That's not going to work. You're going to injure yourself. You're going to start with the 5s, then with the 10s, then with the 15s, and you're slowly going to build up to the 20s and more. All right. So you have to build it up. And how do you do that? Easy. Whenever you go out, let's say you're going to go out and buy your coffee. You're going to go out and you're going to, I don't know, buy your groceries, or wherever you're going to go. If you're walking down the street and you see an old lady walking her dog, these are great opportunities for you to engage. Okay. And it's going to, your mental health is going to thank you for this as well, because there is nothing that puts you in a more positive mood than little positive interactions with people. So how does that look like? Let's say I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying my groceries. Instead of me going to the self-checkout section, I'll go and I'll put my groceries where there's a lady or a man that's going to check them out for me. And while they're doing the little thing, while they're ringing in my stuff, I'll have like small talk with them. Like, have a good, just say good morning. That's a good start. Say good morning. She'll say good morning back. And you can be like, busy day today. And you might think that, why will I say that? Why, maybe she doesn't want to talk to me. And you're right, maybe she doesn't. But it doesn't matter because those people are paid to be friendly to you. Okay, so any positive interaction that you get from them, it's going to boost a little bit of your confidence. It doesn't matter if she doesn't want to talk to you. She's bored. So she'll say hi back. She has nothing to lose. She's going to have a nice little conversation. And on you go. Then when you're walking down the street and you see the old lady walking her dog, there's nothing wrong with just kind of stopping by and kind of asking the lady, can I pet your dog? She's going to say, yeah, of course not. Why not? Right? She's going to allow you. Maybe you don't even want to do that. Maybe you just want to say, hey, good morning or have a good day. She's going to smile at you. She's going to say, have a good day to you too. Okay, little interactions like that will build your social momentum. I'm not saying that you're going to go out and you're going to start like approaching people and making friends and you're going to have them invite you to a party. But if you do this every day where you just, as you're going through your day, you're just making the decision to interact with the people that you come across with, even a simple compliment or, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, that's going to tremendously alter your state to a more positive one, to a more expansive one, and to a more social one.
And to add on that point, I think it's also nice if you have these little interactions during your day. First of all, it really takes like no time off your day if you're working on following your inclinations, for example. And if you starting to do that, starting to talk to people you haven't known before, I think it's also great if you have situations where you can kind of escape. You know, if it's, for example, with the cashier, if it's getting awkward, you're paying, you're going back. If you have this little interaction with like a person who's walking his dog and just making a compliment, or your dog looks nice, and maybe you can then start to build a conversation from there. If it doesn't click, you both can just walk away, and don't have this tremendous pressure of like talking to a person who sits besides you at the bus and be like, how you doing? And you have to write, and it really doesn't click, and you have to write like another 30 minutes with them. It can be pretty awkward. So that's also very nice to put yourself in situations where you can also escape. Obviously, you shouldn't escape from also awkward situations, but at first, I think it's inevitable. If it's really awkward and you like didn't know about that stuff, or you haven't done it ever in your life, I think it's also totally fine to then like kind of escape and say like, oh, goodbye. You also don't go to the gym, like pick the biggest weights, or if you go to the gym, pick the biggest weights. You can't get it up, you just put it back on the rack. And I think that also very much applies to social interactions.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And you definitely on a next level. So now what we've talked about is so far you want to build your social momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You want to put yourself in situations where you can interact with people and have like small talks where you can escape at any moment. So you don't have to commit to anything. And over time, that's going to build your social momentum. Now to take it to the next level, you want to start putting yourself in situations where you can actually connect with the kinds of people that you might get along with. Like actually you have actual interests in common. And how you go about this is that you just start taking what we talked about earlier, right? You follow your inclinations, right? We talked about that. You're developing yourself, you're doing your hobbies, you're learning about yourself, you're interested in yourself. And now whatever it is that you like doing, you take it out in public. So if you like playing basketball, instead of staying home and shooting hoops at the little basket that you have hanging on your door, go outside to the park and shoot hoops there. If you like reading books, instead of staying home and reading books in your room alone, go out into the park on a bench and read the book there. Like I've seen many times, like when I'm walking around and going to the park and stuff, that there are people that just sit on a bench and they just read their own separate books just next to each other while sitting on the same bench. Now, I don't know if these are friends and they're doing this as like an activity or if they're just complete strangers, but those two people could easily just turn to one another and be like, hey, what are you reading, by the way? Or I'm reading this book, or I've read the book that you're reading, it's really good, you're going to love the ending. And you could easily just connect. And in that moment, you don't have to commit. So like if you turn to someone that's sitting next to you, you have to commit to a full-blown conversation and talk about your problems and start connecting deeply with them. It could be just as simple as we talked about earlier. It could be as simple like, hey, what are you reading? Or I'm reading this, what are you reading? Or I'm reading that. Do you have any recommendations? Yeah, I have this recommendation. Boom, bam, boom, a little small talk. And if you're not feeling it, cool, enjoy your book and just go back to reading, right? And that's fine. People don't expect you to like commit to full-blown conversations if you don't feel like. But if you put yourself in enough situations, playing basketball in public, reading books in public, doing your meditation or your yoga in public, you're putting yourself in situations where it's just more likely that you're going to meet people that you connect with.
And also with this situation right now where maybe not that many people are at home, and you maybe make excuses like, yeah, if I do this activity at home, like or outside, I won't meet other people. There won't be people out there. And it's not that likely that you meet as many people, but I think it's quite likely that you will meet people because not everybody is just sitting at home doing his or her activity at home, because you also want to go out to get some headspace. And even if you're just saying, all right, you don't feel it this day. Today, you just want to concentrate your activity at home. It's also okay to do that. And something which you can do from just your home, from your room, is to go on Instagram, and they have this neat hashtag feature or location feature. So wherever you're at, for example, I'm in Hamburg, I just put in the search bar from Instagram Hamburg, just see which kind of people have posted which kind of pictures. For example, some people doing sports, drawing, something like that. You can just slide into their DMs. Yeah, I saw a picture, looks nice, something like that. Maybe record a video because it builds a lot more trust than another person texting you I think texting is like a very not social activity, or not personal, because there could be a different person on the other hand. But when they see you in a video, it makes it much more natural. Or comment on the pictures, hey, it looks pretty nice, or which kind of book are you reading, what kind of drawing you do, how long have you done it. And it actually works to then start a conversation, make friends and stuff. It may feel a little bit weird, but I think if you don't have these amazing social skills at first, it can also help you to meet people, because if they reject you, it might not feel as dramatic, because it's just a text on the phone or something like that. And during these times, I think it's also something which you should, if you want to meet new people, consider to do. And obviously, I think the best thing, or like where you have the most leverage with when you are early in the process, is finding just one person. If you have one person with the same mindset who also want to grow, it gives you a boost. Like I can't stress it enough how valuable it is to have one person who wants to go in this kind of same direction, who also wants to grow. Maybe it's for you it's art, for me it's more business, wants to go in that, but who wants to grow, who also wants to meet people. It really helps you to push each other, to keep yourself updated, to maybe go out and talk to people together, so you can push yourself. Like, yeah, I talked to that person, and you're like, are you a pussy and don't want to talk to that guy over there, or something like that. And if you are a competitive person, like I am, it really helps, because if somebody else talks to another person, like, my ego can't stand it. I like no matter what happens, I'm going to talk to another person as well. And you also want to stay on top and stuff. And in order to maybe meet that person, you can do these little tricks we've taught you. And you can also, as a little bonus tip, use your current network. Give them a text and ask them if they have people with similar interests, stuff like that. Because that's actually how I met a very good friend here in Hamburg. I just talked to Niklas, a friend of mine, and we had having this conversation. And I was asking him, hey, do you know like a person with similar interests, something like that? Yeah, oh, I know that guy. He's actually doing the same thing. And then we started connecting, and the vibe was there. So it was very, very nice. And it's actually not Niklas who I talked to, it's Yannick. Just a little bit of a revision right there.
All right. So now you are engaging with social media. Now, as Max said, you are using your whatever existing social circle you have to kind of connect with new people. But let's say you're someone that has to start from scratch. Right? Let's say that now you're watching this video. You're an introvert. Maybe you are someone that's extroverted, but you just haven't socialized in a while, or you're in a new country, you're studying somewhere new, or you're doing your internship somewhere, and you don't really know many people, and you want to go out and you want to meet new people, right? Because you can use social media, and those are very powerful tools, very powerful tools. But at the end of the day, nothing beats real human connection, all right? So if you are someone that wants to go out and you want to meet people and you want to interact that way, we're going to give you here some steps that you can follow, a proven system.
Only cost $99. We just okay.
Okay, so the number one thing that you always want to keep in mind, as always, even when we started this podcast, we mentioned it, is first you want to start with yourself. Okay, so when you're going out and you have the mindset that you want to go out and kind of make a new friend or meet new people or be social, it's very important that you go out with a positive vibe. Okay, you don't want to go out with this kind of negative vibe, like, please be my friend. You don't want to do that. You want to have like a vibe of like, you're just out here, you're living your life, you're enjoying your life, and you just want to give. You want to share who you are with people. You want to find people that you connect with. And hey, look, if you're someone that's very introverted and you're going out, like you're going to like, okay, I'm going to go to the park today. I'm going to take the book that I'm reading and I'm going to go out to the park and I'm going to make a point to talk to one person. All right. let me tell you, if you go out and again, you've been playing World of Warcraft for the last 5 years of your life and you haven't seen a person living in the dark in the basement, right? Then if you go out, you're not gonna, don't put the pressure in yourself to do it from day one. All right. As long as you are putting yourself out there, all right. As long as you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your hobbies in the light and you're around people, at some point you are gonna talk to someone. All right. So don't let it discourage you if you take your hobby out into the park or wherever and you had an opportunity to connect with someone and you didn't take it. Okay, use that as motivation to do it next time. All right. So always maintain a positive vibe. Now let's say you have your positive vibe down, you're excited, you're going out, your intention is to meet people. And let's say you went to the park and you are working out into the park because now we're in the whole situation and we can be like out and to the gyms and stuff. And there's someone else that's also working out there with you, right? Using the public gyms. What you do, first of all, is of course you want to go in with a positive vibe. Maybe you could give them a compliment like, hey man, I like the form. Or you could say something like, you could ask them to help you with your form or to maybe you could give them some nutritional advice. You want to be careful with that one though. People don't like it when you give them advice, but just anything that's very positive, right? Like, hey man, do you work out a lot? Or man, it sucks that the gyms are closed, right? And he's going to respond to that. He's going to be like, yeah, man, I used to work out a lot in the gyms, but now we're in the park. You can kind of connect over that. Like, yeah, I kind of come here every day, but blah, blah, blah. It's not the same. And you guys can have like a small back and forth about that. You can connect about this very surface level topic, right? And then once you do that, once you have kind of built like this commonality, you can throw in a statement of empathy, right? A statement of empathy is pretty much you letting them know that they do not have to continue this conversation if they don't want to, okay? But that you are interested in continuing it, right? So you could be like, yeah, man, like, don't let me interrupt you, by the way. I'm just here working out. I just kind of thought that it's interesting to see someone else working out as well. That's someone that's also as ambitious about fitness as I am. And I just wanted to talk to you, but if you want to just continue working what you're doing, hey, no problem. Do your thing, right? And when you do that, it's very like counterintuitive because once you give people that out, it relieves a lot of pressure from the interaction. And that's when you will see that a lot of people are actually very down to talk to you. And that's when people will usually start asking you questions like, hey man, don't worry about it. Yeah, I get it, man. Like, I also come here. Usually there's no one here. So it's nice to see that someone else is working out. What do you study, by the way? Boom. Now you're in conversation. And now you can start building up and, you can start asking them about them. And they can start asking you about you. And you can just slowly build a friendship from there or not, right? Maybe they're just not feeling it. Maybe they want to just do their workout and leave. And that's fine too. The more you interact with people, the more likely it is that you're going to meet people that actually want to interact with you and build a friendship from there.
And I think also, like, when you, for example, talking to that person who you are training with or who you just saw training beside you, if you haven't built up that amount of trust, it doesn't have to, but it can, depending on how you structure what you want to say, feel kind of like an interrogation if you haven't built up that amount of trust, if the other person is also kind of introverted. And you're just asking questions like, oh, like, how are you, like, what's your name, how are you doing, what kind of sports do you do, how long have you doing this, how long have you been living in this city, what are you doing for work, like give me a break, like, we're not at the police station or something like that. I think to build that amount of trust, it really helps to just share some of your stuff, share your perspective. If you ask, like, for example, what they're doing in the city, job or whatever, also, even if they don't ask for it, just say what you're doing here, what kind of job, or if you're a student, what kind of things you are interested in. Obviously, it has to apply to the situation. If you talk to, like, what are you doing in the city, you shouldn't talk about what you had for breakfast, but I think that's kind of it just makes sense, and then don't interrupt it that much. but in general to give a lot also of your personal information out, so that the people get a vibe for who you are, and that you can build that amount of trust also, to add to that point, to the statement of empathy, to let the other people, a person, feel relieved, kind of, all right, I'm good in the situation, it's not a psychopath or anything like that, he seems kind of cool, then to move the conversation up from there.
Mm-hmm. And I will also be say, like, yeah, you want to say a lot of the basic statement, actually, like the best way to kind of encompass all of this when it comes to interacting with people is that you want to give value. All right. That's why we talked about positive energy. You want to give value. You don't want to be the person that's going up to people and you're always asking them questions and you're expecting them to create the conversation. You want to assume the burden. You want to be positive. So let's say you approach someone that's walking down the park and you like their shoes or something, and you're someone that's very big into sneakers. Like I have a friend of mine that has like, I don't know, 100 sneakers in his house. Someone like that, right? And you can appreciate that kind of thing. You can go up to them, you can be like, hey man, I like your sneakers, man. Those are really expensive. They are this brand. I actually really want them too. I have similar ones, but in green, right? They can be like, yeah, man, I like green as well, but red is more of my color, right? And you can just start talking. Don't ask as much questions, make more statements, be interested in them as well, right? Which is something that I think it's advice that's especially geared towards more socially anxious people. Like I used to be as a teenager, I used to be also very socially anxious. So when you are very socially anxious, very introverted, very shy, you tend to kind of feel like everyone is judging you all the time, right? You feel like what you have to say is not good enough, it's not cool enough, that you're not funny enough, that you're not interesting enough. So there's a lot of self-judgment, okay? And there's nothing that you can do about that. Like I can't tell you, hey, don't judge yourself. That's only going to make it worse. Don't think of a pink elephant. What did you think about, right? So what you do instead is that you want to push your attention outward. Instead of focusing so much on yourself, just focus on the other person. Focus on what they're telling you. Focus on learning about them and being interested in them and what they're about. Make statements. Yeah, again, as Max said, don't go into interview mode, right? You want to make more statements. And what does that look like, by the way? Instead of asking someone, where are you from? You could say like, oh, you look Russian, or you have an accent, is that Russian? Okay, and then of course they're gonna tell you, oh, no, I'm not Russian, I'm from here, right? So you're asking the question without asking the question. You're making a statement, oh, you look Russian, but it evokes the same reaction. You still get the answer, but you do that in a way that's more interesting and more engaging, right? So after you do that, you have a little bit of a back and forth. You solidify that connection, like, hey, man, it was good to talk to you. And maybe you talk for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Nice talking to you, man. Maybe we should hang out someday. You introduce the idea of a future activity. And if they're down, they'll be like, yeah, man, for sure, let's do it. You guys exchange information and you can follow up with them in the future.
True that. And like the thing which helped me a lot, and might also help you if you're like introverted, a little bit socially anxious and stuff like that, is to reduce the amount of distractions you have when you go out and want to meet more people. Because if you go out and you say, okay, I'm reading this book outside, you're doing these steps, and I'm going to talk to one person. It might be too much for the first time when you're going out to just like approach another person, and the bringing the book with you might make it worse, because you have an excuse like, all right, if I don't talk to another person, I can read the book, it's not that bad, or I have the phone and I can listen to music, stuff like that. And if you really reduce these kind of like distractions, especially in the beginning, like when you are further down the line, you can also bring like your phone with you or your book, something like that. But when you are like early in the process, it really can help to not bring your phone with you, not bring headphones, not bring anything with you. It's just your keys to get back into a room, because then it increases the pressure to talk to other people. Because if you go out for like 4 hours on the weekends on a little walk, and you can't listen to music, you can't read a book, you can't do anything. It's, first of all, will feel kind of boring if you don't talk to another person, because like what you're doing that for. And then on the other hand, you can tap into that bad energy, because probably if you just spend 4 hours of your weekend not doing anything productive and not accomplishing your goal, um, you don't you wouldn't talk to yourself like in a good way, because you would be kind of disappointed. You went out, you had that goal, you spent 4 hours on it, and you haven't done anything. And to not have these distractions really can help you to build up that pressure and to actually get you into moving. Obviously, it can also have a negative effect on you if you don't do it for like an extended amount of time and over again. But in general, it can be a negative emotion with a positive outcome.
For sure, for sure. And when you do that, of course, you create more opportunities for you to connect. You cannot put more of an incentive on yourself to do something in that environment, because you're going to feel awkward just standing there doing nothing.
Hell yeah.
Right? It will create more connections, more opportunities with people.
Yeah.
But now let's say, for example, that you've been meeting people, right? You've been putting yourself out there, you've been socializing, you've been giving compliments to people, you've been using statements of empathy, the things that we talked about. And let's say out of like, be doing that every day, and eventually by the end of the week, let's say you met like 3 people that seem like legitimately want to hang out with you, and they want to see you again, they want to kind of hang out with you, and they're down to connect, right? So of course you're going to be hanging out with them. At first, I guarantee you, and I would advise you actually to, in the beginning, to just be hanging out with people individually, kind of further that connection, to get to know them a lot better. But over time, it would be a good idea to start introducing people to each other. Okay, so you've been making friends, let's say when you go to the basketball court, and let's say on Tuesday you met a new friend there, and then you met another friend on Thursday, right? So you've been meeting, you've met these 2 people, different days, different contexts, but they both like basketball, right? So you will hang out with both of them individually at first, but you should keep in mind that maybe sometime in the future, it would be a good idea to invite them both to play basketball together. All right, now it's 3 of you playing basketball. Now you have like a nice group going, right? So yeah, you want to have individual connections, but at the same time, if you want to think bigger and you want to kind of create a more of like a lively environment, like as we said, a kingdom around yourself, it's a good idea to kind of introduce people to each other that have similar mindset, similar vibes, right? It doesn't have to be similar hobbies. For example, Max and I'm into art, Max is mostly into business. And even though I am kind of into business as well, that's not like the primary thing that we have in common. It's just our mindset. That's what kind of creates that's kind of where the friendship is founded on, right? So it doesn't have to be specifically that both of these friends play basketball, because you could have 2 people that play basketball, but they just think very differently, and just introducing them to each other will put them at odds, right? It's more about kind of reading people's vibe and kind of gauging, maybe these 2 people will get along. So maybe next time you could invite them both to do an activity together. And that you can build over time to where eventually you have like a group of like 5-6 people where you're all kind of getting along together, and you're like the social connector. Everyone knows each other because of you, and that strengthens kind of the foundation of the group.
Also, the good thing about meeting people individually at first is maybe not all people you meet will be as awesome as you thought, or would be the right fit for you. And maybe over time, over like a couple of weeks, you see that you don't want to like continue that connection with them, and that you don't want to invite them into your social circle, for example, because it's also somewhat like vulnerable. You don't want to just introduce every person with each other, because if you value the other people, you also want to have people with like similar interests in the in their social circle or similar mindsets, and it will also just create a better vibe. If you want to meet up and everybody feels like the vibe, everybody really wants to get to know each other or wants to do an activity with each other, it will have a way better effect than just inviting more people for the sake of inviting more people, and there are like different groups will form and stuff like that, and you will actually mess up your cycle. And the thing about meeting up at first with different people whom you just met individually, I think something you can do is to set up an activity. For example, during times of Corona, you can meet online and let's say do this online board game or something like that. Or you can, if that stuff is over, go hiking or something like that. So or play pool. I'm a very big fan of pool because it doesn't put that much pressure on yourself as the connector, where you have to could kind of feel the pressure of, all right, everybody has to feel good right now, and it relieves that kind of pressure because you have some distractions. If the conversation at first is a little bit rough because you haven't met each other and stuff like that, so it is quite likely to be rough. You have this activity, you can play pool a little bit like that, and it's a good way to cover up these moments of silence.
Yeah. And I think having an activity also, like the more activities you and your friends engage in, the more you build that trust and that connection. I say the best way actually to build connections with people is to work together to achieve a goal. Okay. But for that, you need to have like some common interests and you need to have some level of trust. So what I would say for a start, as Max said, having some kind of like simple fun activity like playing pool, having a movie night. This is something that I do with my friends from time to time, is that every couple of weeks we'll have a movie night and we all bring snacks and we just choose a shitty movie to watch and we just make fun of it. Like the entire time we make fun of it. And after the movie is done, we kind of critique it and talk how we could make it better in some way, as if we know how to make movies. Or you could do like a drinking night if you're into that, where you invite like 2 or 3 friends every couple of weeks and you guys have wine together or beer together, and maybe you bring like a board game, Monopoly or Uno. I mean, those are known to ruin friendships, but
that's very much
as
true.
long as you're not too serious about it, you should be fine. So any like small activity.
But okay, can I say something about that right there? I think if you do something with alcohol, you should really keep an eye that it's not your common theme, that you do it like every couple of meetups or something like that, and not be the common theme you meet up and drink wine or something like that, because it also doesn't give up a very authentic picture of who you are and who the other people are, because the substance also kind of or can kind of change your character, and it also is very much advisable to just have activities without alcohol or some kind of other drugs. And obviously it isn't good for your body, but that's that's a given.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess if you are doing all of this, so you're meeting people, you're building new connections with people, you're making new friends, you're introducing these friends to each other, and you're building your social circle, right? A lot of people think that once you have a friendship with someone, or you have like a nice group of people that you can hang out with regularly, that it's done. Your work is done. It's the same thing like with relationships. When people get into relationships, they think that now I have my boyfriend, now I have my girlfriend, now I can just start getting fat and playing video games all day. It's all good.
It happens. No, okay. It happens.
It happens, but it's not optimal. Like you want to be, no matter what you do in life, it's that you want to be proactive at all times. You want to be engaged. You've never arrived. Okay, you're never just here and now you can just chill. You can't just get a new job at like an office job or something, and now that you got the job, you can just sit in front of the computer and just look at the screen like, oh, well, I got the job, I don't have to do anything. No, okay. Social circles, relationships with people, friendships, no matter whatever it is, business associations, whatever, they require constant maintenance. And this is where I think where the whole base of what we've been talking about now for, I don't know, almost an hour, is you need to be proactive. Stop waiting for people to invite you to things. Stop waiting for people to invite you to their party, to invite you to their events, to hit you up, to text you, to check in on you. Be the one that's checking in on people. Be the one that has the idea to do something like a picnic in the park or to do the movie night. Stop waiting from other people to do those things, okay? Don't be passive. If you want to have like an amazing social life, not just a social life, if you want to have an amazing life in general, okay, you have to be the hero of your own story. It's very boring. I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but it's very boring whenever you watch a movie and the protagonist is just like some passive person that's just kind of like watching things happen around them, like, whoa, I can't believe that. That's not a good protagonist, okay? That's boring. Be the hero of your own story. Be proactive. Yeah, there's going to be rejection. There's going to be pain along the way. But in the long run, the person that you're going to end up being by just being proactive and engaged and just pushing through and going after what you want, the person that you're going to become because of that is worth all the disappointment, all the pain, and all the adversity that you will experience to get there. Trust me on that.
Hell yeah. I think like I don't get it. Like a lot of people have this pride in not being proactive. I don't even know what it is. They just, a lot of people just don't seem to really take the steps, although they want to, for example, text another person if they want to meet up. I don't know really what it is about. I'm a lot of times also the proactive one, and they're like happy that you texted them. But in our society, it's sometimes a little bit difficult for other people to also take that proactive part in a conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure you all had this where maybe you kind of are walking down the street and you see like an old friend from like middle school or something, and you're like, oh man, it's you, and they're like, yeah, John, it's you, how you been, man? You guys like catch up and you have a great vibe, and you're like, damn man, you remember when we used to do this? And you're like, yeah man, those were good times, bro. Man, we should catch up, those were good times. So they're like, yeah man, dude, hit me up, man. Hey man, you hit me up too, bro, like let's catch up. What happens? You will never catch up, right? Because no one actually takes the proactive step to make it happen, right? Because everyone is just sitting back, waiting for someone else to invite them to things, right? Imagine if for every one of those times where you reunited with a friend from middle school, imagine if you actually made the move to reunite with them, right? Because that person could have been a really good friend of yours in middle school. You just kind of lost touch because you went your separate ways. And if you were to reunite, you could have like an amazing new friend again. But because ego and because of shyness and anxiety and insecurity, people do not make the move, and they just miss out on amazing friendship, amazing experiences, amazing relationships, and it's a shame. So again, be proactive and take control of your life, for sure.
I think that were some good final words for our first episode of our podcast. Do you think so too?
Yeah.
Damn. Woo. I mean, crazy first podcast. I think after that podcast, we will be going over a little bit of a talk how it actually went. But for the viewer, I really do hope that you enjoyed it. Like, let us know what you think about it. If you, at which step are you? Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how to maintain a social cycle, or if you are in the process of figuring yourself out, following interests and stuff like that. Definitely let us know in the comments, and obviously like or subscribe definitely helps out tremendously. And we haven't planned the second episode, so you can be very, very curious about what it's going to be. Maybe you have some recommendation, then also definitely let us know. And yeah, we see each other in the next one, I'd say.
All right. Peace.
See ya.